Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and the all of everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. You ready? This is your host, Miss La. Let's do this. Hello, everyone. This is Miss La, and I have a very, very special guest and friend and brethren here with us today. You're listening to the Ignite Intimacy podcast, and I'm so excited to introduce you to someone that I hold in high regard and someone who has a very, very special place in my heart, Mr. Abba Yahudah. And we're sitting in this gorgeous environment outdoors in Oakland, California, and it's a beautiful day, blue sky, sun is shining, the breeze is blowing, and it's just about probably one of the most beautiful spots you could just chill and have a conversation. So, Abba Yahudah, give thanks for being here with us today.
The pleasure is all mine. It's wonderful to see you again and to be here to share on this wonderful platform that you've created for us to express ourselves on various levels of the conversation of intimacy. So yes, it is my pleasure to be here, and it's also my pleasure to welcome you into Oakland. Yeah.
Give thanks. You know, I've been coming to Oakland for many years. My twin sister used to live out here, and I love how every time you come to a familiar place, you discover something new. You know, and I believe that is true in our relationships.
Yes. You know, it's important to realize how our relationships are significant in our own development. You know, all the challenges that we experience in relationships are there specifically to help us to grow. You know, you can't run away from them. And that's why we have the other part of us, in an external sense. And usually the other half is more objective about us than we are about ourselves. So it is good, you know. It's almost like you can call it group therapy in that sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I know that you have been in a long-term partnership.
Yes.
And you've just found this really unique and powerful and dynamic way of building a foundation that supports you and your partner and your family in really living your lives to the fullest, living the lives that you truly desire to live, that you're here to live. And, you know, I'm curious about that because that has not been my experience. I haven't really been in a long-term conscious relationship with someone over several years. And I wonder if we could, you know, jam a little bit about setting the space, you know, really consciously creating an environment that supports you all to live your truth.
Yeah, long-term relationships are important, you know, in particular to a person like me, because I don't like transient energy per se, because, you know, that happens naturally in life, you know, just like two people on two different trains going in two directions. That happens to us all the time. Mm-hmm. So the parts of our lives that we can control to the degree that we have the ability to develop disciplines, it is important that we exercise that, you know, on all levels in our partnerships, because that's what intimate relationships are. All kinds of relationships. Long-term partner relationships is based on honesty and trust. For me, it's important that I am building something with a person more than a family or more than a personal relationship. It has to also be a professional relationship there for me too, because I believe that it's important to utilize our skills, our passions, our personal passions in terms of what we're passionate about doing in life, and pursue that to the fullest and learn how to make a business out of that. So family is also a business in a sense. You know, it's based on the resources that we have amongst us. You know, so when two people come together, that's a family. And when two becomes one, then the third is inevitable. The two becoming one can also be two people coming together and giving birth to a business. You know, and that business now can represent a security for even deeper intimacy to take place.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Can you expand on that?
When people hear the word intimacy, they usually think sex, but it's not so. You know, intimacy is closeness, deep connection to, and the openness to experience that, whether spiritually, emotionally, physically, socially. We interact intimately with various parts of our community on a day-to-day basis, and we're not having sex. And when it comes to those kind of, say, social intimacies or professional intimacies, then, you know, when that leads to deeper sexual intimacy, those people usually, I feel, have a more secure personal relationship. You know, so a lot of times too, people have the feeling like if I open myself up, you know, and embrace society with open arms, I will be taken advantage of. A lot of times we refuse to get more intimate with our environment because of certain conditionings that we have. And a lot of times we function in a society that have taboos about how your intimate expressions, you know, ought to be experienced. So in America, you have, you know, American social standard or norms, you know, that are accepted, where if a woman is breastfeeding in public, it's almost like, what?
It's like taboo.
It's taboo, you know? Yet American male, in particular white male, have the greatest addiction to women's breasts. And I believe that the fact that they have this hang up about women's breasts, they forbid that to just be seen in public. So because it has become, for the male, an erogenous zone.
It's become so sexualized.
Yes.
When it's, the breasts are
organs for breastfeeding,
life, right?
babies.
So exactly. That's why women have breasts.
Yes.
They don't have breasts so men can go to town on them. They have breasts for babies, really.
Yes.
So, and it's interesting to me, I think about the fact that in America, there's all this, you know, it's taboo. There are certain places where you absolutely cannot breastfeed your child. And if you do, you have to have a blanket over them and all of this stuff. And then I think about in Europe, teenagers are topless on the beach with their crew of friends.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Europe don't have the same hang up about nudity as America does. That's what it's the suppression of all of these things that create these taboos that cause such perversion to express itself throughout the society in various forms. You know, if you oppress something or you suppress something, it's bound to show up in different forms, sometimes in distorted forms to the extreme, you know, in other areas of life. It's important that we understand what intimacy is. You know, I embrace life with open arms. You know, I embrace everyone with warmth. You know, I don't limit myself. I, in this sense, choose freedom over love because, you know, a lot of people don't truly understand what love is, and the conditioning that we have that tells us that love is supposed to manifest this kind of way and that kind of way, you know. Love really don't have those rules, you know.
love doesn't have rules.
You see what I'm saying? So within the context of that, yeah, I choose freedom to love because I love to be free. And so my choice of partner would be one that can love me without me feeling any infringement on my freedom.
Or limited by their love.
Or limited by their love. You know, because I'm not defined by anyone's love for me. You know.
Because
love has already defined me.
you are love.
As I am. You know, so, and it's that for the other person as well. And that's and when I see that in someone, it makes the connection run even deeper. You know, because it's an acceptance of who you are as you are. You know, and in that, you choose to be with this person, and it's a choice. You know, it's not an obligation. And at every moment, you have to understand, like, wow, you know, this person can leave
at any minute.
At any minute, any given time. You know, and for them to be here, I am privileged. You know, and I live in that gratitude and feeling like, wow, you know, this is amazing. Like, wow, you're still here. You know, because, a lot of people would think that, you see, it's love and consciousness that I'm talking about here. Really, not just love. And one might ask, like, you know, what do you mean by love in consciousness? Well, you know, love in the conditioning, you know, have so far has been a bondage.
Absolutely.
For many of us.
Absolutely. And
presently, we, in our own generation, are redefining our relationships with ourselves and our environment on many different levels. You know, we are questioning, you know, how the conditioning is set, like in stone or in law, unspoken or written. You know, we're questioning, we're challenging those norms. Yes, so to speak. And coming up with our own flavor for who we are.
Yeah. So redefining.
It's a redefining it's a new paradigm in terms of relationship.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're discovering more and more about even the animals of the planet and how alike we are, that they actually mourn death. You know, they get emotional, they get sad, they have moods, you know, and they're connected to each other and they love their lives. You know?
Well, and some are monogamous.
And some are monogamous.
And some are not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you know, in our society too, it is like that. You know, some of us are monogamous and some of us are not. Some of us are heterosexuals and some of us are not. You know, and so we are recalibrating ourselves and I think fine-tuning our machines to deal with a new revolution in relationships, in intimacy, you know, and in a very different way. However, none of this is new.
No.
You know,
it's been around through the ages.
Yes, throughout the ages. It's just now that I think that we are more emboldened to come out and openly speak and address these issues, so to speak, in many cases concerning the social conditionings and the social norms, you know, and how we relate to each other.
So before we continue, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about you, where you come from, your magic in the world, just so that our listeners can understand a little bit more about your essence.
Me, Abba Yahudah, and where I come from. I always look at that like from, you know. I really am not from. Because in the from, when people ask, like, you know, where are you from? You know, that's a deep question. You know, like where you're born is easier. You know? But I was born in Jamaica and grew up in a very rich environment, so to speak, rich with culture. And the cultural norms of Jamaica are not necessarily the cultural norms in America in terms of intimacy and sexuality and, you know, how that affection is shown publicly or privately. There's a whole lot of different, there's certain stereotypes about Jamaicans that when it comes to whether it's homosexuality or affection, you know, publicly, you know, displayed. by loved ones or lovers. All of those things are shifting too. See that, So I grew up in a Jamaica where people didn't show love and affection publicly, not even to their children. And so many of us from that age are not, I'm not saying this for all Jamaicans, but I'm saying there is a time when people showed less affection to each other, like walking down the street holding hands and, loving up each other in public and stuff like that. That wasn't the norm when I was growing up. And moms and dads hugging their children and saying how much they love them and stuff like that. No, that wasn't the norm. A lot of us never got that. And yes, I do believe this have a psychological effect on who we are and how we are today. However, none of us are bound to any of the social conditioning. At any given time, we have a choice.
That's right.
We can always shift something.
That's right.
And you don't have to shift it in anyone. You just have to shift it in you.
Yourself.
Yeah, in you.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So,
well, and I just want to note that I've learned over the years that when I can do the work internally and shift that thing, that one thing or those several things that I'm wanting to change outside of myself, when I can actually shift it within myself, all of a sudden I start to attract more of what I desire.
Exactly.
or that outcome that I really know is the true outcome.
Yes.
That happens with ease.
Yes. It's an interesting thing. When you're experiencing something, you'll notice that other people are experiencing that more. Once you start, if you've been pregnant, once you're pregnant, you've never seen someone pregnant. Right? You see them everywhere. Once you have pushing a stroller with your child, you realize wow.
Everyone's pushing strollers.
Wow. Is this always like this? But it's always like that. It's the connection. We have severed many different connections throughout our evolution as humans on this planet, and so we've cut many ties that would allow us to feel plants as living things and feel like they hurt. My father was the first one that taught me that growing up in Jamaica. It's like these, playing football in the yard and kick the ball and the begonias, and it was like plants don't like that. Okay, and then you'll go over and you see a leaf broken and you'll hold the leaf so tenderly and he'll look at it, and if it's bruised or if it's broken, he'll probably tape it back together, or a branch or something like that. But he had this connection to plants like no one I've ever experienced. And it
Your father was a botanist? Or
my father is a botanist. That's what he studied, and that's what he cultivate in us as children. Connection with plants and many other things. He's my first art teacher, so even though he's not like this incredible artist, he has certain things in him that he has shared with me in my life that helped to shape the person that I am today. When I look at my father, I realize I have been perfecting him in me my entire life, and I have a deep and intimate relationship with my father. I have the same relationship with my mother because I'm also perfecting her in me, as she's like the greatest woman I've ever experienced, the greatest mother I've ever seen, the greatest surrender, the greatest, sacrifice, and till today, I haven't seen anyone that tops that. Spirit, that energy. And so I figure, well, if I'm from her, then I must have that in me. Find that space and you'll become a better person. And the same thing with my father. So,
well, and it's like you find it and then you can become more of it because you realize it's within you.
Exactly, the journey. And that's talking about intimacy in another way, because I internalize. I grew up with a lot of brothers and sisters. I'm not going to tell you how many, but more than the average family. And so not all of us have the same relationship with our parents, But my relationship with both my parents, as I was a child growing up in Jamaica, has been very deep. It's like I see them as the greatest too. And so, I've been perfecting them inside of me because I realize that I can't escape whatever it is that I don't like in them. I can't escape it in myself unless I work on myself, unless I choose to shift that. And I realized that I would have to go deep to do that because if I go deep enough, I could shift it genealogically as well.
Oh yeah.
And that's
on a cellular level.
Yes, on a cellular level.
And that's what the purpose is.
That's what the purpose is, because when you ignite intimacy on a sexual level, you have to realize that you're multiplying more than yourself. You're multiplying a gene pool, and you have the power through deep work to shift the gene. You know? Yeah.
Well, when we were speaking about this the other night, first of all, big difference between intimacy and being sexual with someone.
Yes.
And I'll speak for myself. I know that I jumped into sexual behaviors, especially as a youth, because I didn't have that love and affection and positive reinforcement from my parents when I was younger. I get it now, but I didn't have it back then.
Yeah.
So I was searching and searching outside of myself because I didn't know, and I didn't realize that I could find it within myself and then start attracting people who truly had my best interest at heart. So when it comes to being sexual with someone, there are a couple of huge factors that come into play. Not only is there an energetic connection, exchange. Thank you.
Yes.
There's an energetic exchange that happens, but there's also, would I want to have children with this person, because our genes are going to come together and we're going to create life.
Exactly.
And that's only the beginning of it. You and I both know the parenting journey. And it's, for anyone out there who has raised children or who has children, it is a dynamic journey that we don't know what it will be, when we're just expecting that child. So then there's also the risk of your health, your physical health, with being sexual with people and not having the healthiest boundaries or knowing how to have those conversations before you engage and go there. So I think that something that's really powerful is taking time and allowing space to build the energy with someone in an intimate way.
Yeah.
Before you jump into more sexual connection.
Sex is the easy part. And usually for a lot of people, if you're going deep, really and truly, when you finally get to that point, everything else is just like a dance of like foreplay to that. And if the dance and everything is in motion, it'll get to that. You know what I mean? But if people used to call it courting, people don't court anymore. People just have sex. And people don't, because there's a period of time where you're saying, okay, let me search the spirit right here. If it's worth it, then the inevitable will happen. But if it's not worth it, I don't want that to happen first.
Yeah.
That means you might have some standard for yourself. If the other person don't have the same standard, then you might find that there's a conflict there. If the person is moving faster than you're comfortable with. You know what I mean? And so you must always speak up. Important. Speak up. And you remember that no means no. So we must set boundaries, and we must hold ourselves to them. Because you have to hold yourself accountable. At the end of the day, if you have sex with someone and you feel bad about it, you should not have had that sex. You should not have exchanged your energy that way. Because you shouldn't feel bad about it. You should feel empowered. And that's what I'm talking about, like sex in consciousness is the same thing. Love in consciousness. So love in consciousness don't even need sexual penetration for it to be happening, because love in consciousness is always intimacy. It's always that powerful, exchange. And some would, you could say sex energy is the only energy that exists, really. But I wouldn't say sex energy. I would say energy. You can put anything to energy. It could be sex energy. But why some would say sex energy is because it's the flux of positive and negative. You see what I mean? And within the positive and negative, there's an attraction. And that attraction, which is always pulling towards each other, is that energy, that sex energy, which ultimately creates everything. So sex energy is creative energy. We have this creative energy, and it's not just in our sexual organs. It's in our fingers, in the sense of touch, per se. It's in our eyes. in our senses, in our hearing, you know? And so that's what come into play even in the act of sex. All these senses are heightened on those levels. Yeah, what you're hearing, you know, it's the taste of each other in the most intimate sense of the word. And so it's a deep exchange, and when people have sex, they don't walk away from each other. They leave each other in each other. And in particular for the woman, is the man have to be deep for him to become a vessel like a woman, to carry her the same way she would carry him. And so it's almost a physical impossibility, but it is a spiritual possibility. So yes, an evolved man can do that. He has found his womb as well. Like I say, you know, you can't come from the womb and not have the womb within you. So man have to find his own womb. And that is this feminine energy within him that will balance his masculine energy, which makes him a better man. It will prepare him for fatherhood, because it's not as natural for him to be a father as it is natural for a woman to be a mother. You see? And the intimate relationship that a child shares with her or his mother is not the kind of relationship that the father has with that same child. Because the first thing, the child has no addiction to the father. The addiction is to the mother. If the mother, especially if she's suckling or breastfeeding, you know. And so check the animal species, it's the same thing. All of them. If you want to see the power of motherhood, you'll see it when they are protecting their young. You'll see the power. You'll see that there's no fear there, you know. And so it's hard for a man to compete with that, you know. So a man would have to develop himself to be sensitive enough to be responsible. And when I say responsible, I mean ability to respond, responsibility to the needs of, say, a woman, to understand the needs of the children, to continue that connection, multiplying the love from the 2 to the 3rd. In a way that the child understands that this is a trinity, or the divine manifestation, you know, because that's what it is. 2 come together and the 3rd manifests, and there's a family within that context. What I'm saying is families represent a form of it's a need. We all have the need, okay, to have the connections, and that connection is supposed to be the platform, the first space that we learn about divinity. And the first person that you would see to be divine, if you follow the nature of man or the nature of humanity in its natural order, it would be the mother. So the fact that we have deviated so far from the divine feminine, you know what I mean, has caused us to multiply the unconsciousness that we function from in love. So rather than actually loving and nurturing each other in sex, we're actually using each other to satisfy a moment of desire, momentary thing. In the long term, like I was saying, imagine, you know, you're making love, but you know that this is just one aspect of our relationship, because we're even building something bigger. You don't even have to be building like a business per se, but to be building something bigger, which is a family within that sense.
Well, and from my estimation, I believe that when you are with the right partner, that you're better because you're together. You're stronger, you're more powerful, because the energy combined makes something even greater, you know, bigger than us. Yes. Bigger than, you know, the couple.
No, bigger than I, because bigger than the couple, bigger than I, the individual. So beyond the individual is the us, you know, and the us is the divine. So when you hear a person that is like a sovereign speaking, like when a king or a queen is speaking, they don't ever refer to themselves as I or me. It's we. It's us, because they represent an entity, you know, we, the people, per se. When we transcend the individual I, and the goal in life is not just to transcend the I, the goal is to develop the I, because you can't transcend it until you develop it. You can't denounce or renounce something that you don't have. You know, you can't renounce wealth if you're not rich, you know. So you have to develop an I first. You have to first be selfish to be selfless. And what I'm saying is, develop the ego, explore yourself, explore the ego, develop it properly, so you don't lie to yourself, you don't live in illusions, and you pull away the veils and you look objectively at yourself. That's why I was talking about earlier that, the group healing is the best way, because you're not always as objective. You're a little bit more subjective to yourself than you, and that's not good for you if you're trying to push yourself to higher heights, so you can go put your roots into deeper depths. And that is the balance of it. Ultimately, if we move into our own divinity, we will refine our sexual experience. Because like when a man leave himself within a woman, that's for a long time. That's still in there, inside of her being. And so it's important for us to even know how to cleanse ourselves from other people's energies. But first we have to know how to protect ourselves from it. Cleansing is after the fact, but prevention is better than cure.
True. And so there's something that came to mind for me. It's been a long time since I've shared a home with a man, and I realized that there are a lot of things that I haven't really had an opportunity to work through on a deeper level, because I do spend quite a bit of time on my own, solo. I work from home alone, I live alone, and there's something about allowing yourself to be in relationship, and it's kind of like a crash course in dealing with your shit, because you can't hide from it, you can't run away from it, you have to face things. So that's what makes me think of the group therapy conversation, and I know that there's a lot of work that I have been able to do on my own, but there are some things that I really haven't had to touch into very much, because I haven't been in a longer term committed, or not even if it's committed or not, but a longer term, relationship with someone, and possibly cohabiting over a period of time. And both things are good. To be alone, to be solo, and to, learn how to operate in life without a relationship, an intimate relationship. And then also to allow that in as well.
Yeah, that's a challenge for a lot of us. It's hard for a lot of us to live with ourselves, and it's hard for a lot of us to live with others too. And we have to learn both. There's a time for everything. So we're talking again, self-development is fundamental to long-term relationships on all levels. There are ways, to be in a relationship, an intimate relationship with a partner, a sexual relationship, a long-term relationship requires certain sacrifices to a degree. We can't come together outside of that. There's things that we always have to face. And if we don't face them, first it's always, you have to know who you are. You can't be in a relationship and all of a sudden somebody's telling you some things about yourself and it's like your first time you're hearing them. Either you're lying to yourself or the person is just straight up making things up. So you have to know who you are. And when you know who you are, you know what your demons are, what you're struggling with. So when you hear it, it just means like, oh, here we go again. I'm going to have to fix this. Because this person is saying that this is my third relationship where I'm hearing it's a recurring decimal here. So let me really look at this. Well, if that moment is what it takes for you to be honest, be sincere, follow through with that, because that will definitely help you. And if you're sincere, shift happen immediately. Immediately. People are like, oh, you can't. No, it's not a process at that moment. It's an awakening. There's no process for no awakening. It's an awakening on the spot, like bam, right there. You're just like, yes, moment. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to work on that. That's being very honest, and that's being open enough to receive the assistance that you might need, the assistance that you might need from either your partner or outside. But that is a great place to be. So developing the self is important, because when you develop yourself, you become a quality person, you become a balanced person. And there's a person that is a balanced person. That person exists. It's called balance. Not perfect, but balance. And everyone have their own chemistry, that they have to refine within themselves to create the kind of internal environment that would be inviting for our next one to come in and be in a sacred space within you. That's very important to understand. If when I meet you, I can have you in a sacred space inside of my being, then what kind of space am I having you in? And if you're in a sacred space inside of me, how can you profane or defile that space within me? See what I'm saying? It's a space that I hold you in. Now, if I no longer want to hold you in that space, that's one thing. But I cannot allow for you to be inside of me in an unhealthy space, you see? So if I feel that you have become toxic in my life, so to speak, I would have to still keep you in a clear space. I would have to know inside of me what it is that I want to be inside of that space. And that space is a sacred space inside of man and woman. It's, vagina is just another sacred space, but we have sacred space inside of all of us. And in that, we have to always keep that clean. We have to always tend that. That's a space that you call that the altar. You can say it's in your heart if you want, but there has to be flowers there. There have to be water there, there has to be fire there. There have to be, love there. And that love is you. It's not something that you're expecting from the world around you. You don't expect that. You just share your essence and you share your vibe and your energy, and you don't expect anything back because you're living out you, and you know that if you're not being you, you cannot be. So if love is who you are, then you just have to be that, and you can't expect that the world is going to be understanding of that. For you to be that love, you would have to be so aware that the love that you share is not always going to be returned. So you're not hurt by it. People, non-response. You have enough love to cover that too. Just, put more love on that.
I love that. Yeah, because this is something I've struggled with in my life is really allowing myself to feel pain about the non-response. And making it about me, and it's all about me, and I must be lacking in something, or here I go again, or and I love that intention of putting more love on it. And there's a deep faith and trust there too, that trusting the divine flow of all things, and that a non-response is still a response, right? Yeah. So when you identify what to do with that experience, put more love on it, go within, and I think about, it can transform all of the baggage around that. And I just think about my own experience there. And I also think about the time and effort that human beings put into their external appearance, and what is possible when people put as much time and energy into their internal environment as they do their external environment. So making sure that, the altar, wherever you identify the altar to be within your being, how do you tend to that? How do you manage it and really tend to the garden of your own divine soul, so that it has that sacred space, so that you can welcome others into that sacred space and hold that sacred space?
I live in my bliss, I live in my passion, and I realize that I have to remain creative. And when I say that, I mean in every sense of the word, not just I'm an artist. I'm a fine artist. I'm a designer. I'm a graphic designer. I do a lot of different things that would seem to preoccupy my time, on a day-to-day basis. But I also believe that one have to remain creative, because if you don't remain creative, it means you're not on top of your game. And that means like things that you're experiencing with people in your interaction, your social interaction, or your, immediate family setting, however or wherever you're experiencing these things, you have to be creative with them too. You have to be flexible. I was having this conversation this morning down at OAKSTOP with Trevor, and I was saying, it's amazing how many people do yoga and it's so flexible, and spiritually they're not not, they're rigid. And I'm like, how did you? And I say, you know what it is? It's just the capitalization of something deeply spiritual. And so you don't get it. You don't connect to the spiritual aspect of it, but you're sure connected to the physical aspect of it. So here you are feeling like it's healthy for your body to be flexible, but you don't think that it's healthy for your spirit to be equally flexible. So you have to remain creative. You know, you have to be able to flex with the flow of life. And that's in Jamaica, that's what we say, okay, you don't know how to flex. You know, if you know how to flex, you can't flex with me because you don't know how to flex. That means you might get me killed, basically. You don't know how to flex. You're kind of awkward. You know, so I get that awkwardness with a lot of people's spirit, people that are supposed to be more elastic.
Or you would think
that
they're more elastic. Yeah.
And you don't get that. You know, you realize like, wow, you know, are we more concerned with the body? And even with our concern with the body, we still have not recognized it as the temple. It's something, because it's connected to so much sexual energy, we feel we should preserve its beauty for such reasons. But really and truly, if we saw that it's a vessel, that it's not us, we are in it. I am not my body, but yes, I am in my body. And my body is mine. And I love my body. And I preserve my body, because for my spirit to be divine, my body would have to be a temple. That means I'm an altar. So yes, throw flowers on me. Yeah, put sweet oil on me, you know. Yes, but if I am doing that, and you see this happening, you know, in various cultures where the shaman have a particular way that the shaman dress, or the mystic have a particular way that the mystic dresses. And it's like, it's pure vanity. You see it in India too. Sadhus. Even a sadhu with the ability to lift rocks with his testicles is vanity. He's standing there doing it for tourists. It becomes vanity. You know, it's like you're standing there with one arm up in the air for what 15, 25 years now? It's vanity. It's all spiritual vanity, and it's developing in themselves a practice or a discipline which is supposed to defy the flesh and also deny the flesh. But when you see these things happening, when the mystic is on the street side, almost as if on display to earn a living, you know, you ask yourself, you know, to what degree are we on the path? You know? So, yes, there was a time that I walked bare feet for 7 years. There was a time that I was silent for 109 days. There's a time that I stopped touching money. I still don't touch money, but I have transformed myself many times. I have given birth to myself over and over and over again in this life, you know, and it's all a part of detaching and releasing from the yesterday, the me of yesterday, recreating me for today, trying to be creative enough to deal with what life is throwing at me today. And yes, I would like to return to my hill, to my cave, to my sanctuary, where I just paint, just write music and do all these things, and just no longer leave my little hill. But for now, I am in the marketplace, and my meditation is active. It's not sitting still in lotus, in silence, doing nothing. There was a time that I did that. And even when I was in silence, I was running 3 businesses here in Oakland. You know, I shaved my head, and then I just moved into silence. People have never seen my hair, never seen my locks. This is like 3rd set of locks in that sense, because I go through periods where I need to shave my head and renew and move into a whole nother level of the journey. And only I can know this. No, I cannot go and sit in front of a person for them to read tarot cards, or for someone to throw some cowrie shells and to give me some kind of divination about what direction I'm supposed to take next in my life. I don't do those things. I have to know me, and if I am intimate with me, I am the one that get the visions about me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we talked about the knowing.
Yes. The knowing is very important, because the knowledge is just books on shelves. You know, knowledge is information that sits. If it is not activated and tested and become knowing, it is of no use. So it's, you know, that's where Rastafari say, you know, you have to know, you can't believe. And people still don't get it. That's just so deep, they don't even get it. You have to know, you can't believe, and belief is, I have knowledge of, but I myself don't know. And with all the information today, why would people not know? Why would people still need to believe in God when you can actually know God? And if your God is unknowable, then what's the point? You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
First thing to commence with, nothing else of God. Man fell out of intimacy with himself, cutting the umbilical cord of life, disconnecting himself from earth, creating a more important heaven up in the sky, and neglect earth and rape the earth and build up heaven in the minds of men as more important than earth, and that you're going to die and go to heaven. And meanwhile, there's only one people believe that. It's people of color. The people that's saying that you're going to die and go to heaven, they don't believe that, because they know they're pillaging the earth. They have industrialized the earth. So if they really believe that this earth is paradise, wouldn't they preserve the earth? And if they believe that they're of the earth and belong here, wouldn't they preserve Mother Earth? But like I said, when they cut the umbilical cord at birth from their biological mothers, they also cut the umbilical cord from Mother Earth, our geographical mother. So with that, we've lost a great deal, because the feminine divine have been shunned and been covered in all of these religions. So much so that when women step forth into her authority and her power, she's said to be acting out of character, out of role. Who defined those roles? So I couldn't allow that. And Rasta is saying, if you don't know, then someone else is going to tell you who you are. If you don't know who you are, then someone is going to tell you who you are. And that's why religion become important to you, because if you don't know God for yourself, somebody's going to know for you. Because there's money to be made from your ignorance.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so people like me, or people like Rasta, awakened mind, are individuals throughout the ages that have awakened to a reality that is contrary to the social or the status quo, then, so to speak, the social norm. Becomes outcast or become marginalized or isolated for whatever reason, because at the end of the day, someone is going to say, well, the direction that we're going is not the right direction, and we need to reconnect with something more important here. There's more to life than money and the pursuit of happiness through money.
And the illusion of security.
Yes, in money.
Through
So,
money.
we know that rich men die and poor men die. That is no respecter of person, and the poor is born and the rich is born. We all have this, but above all things we have life, and it is the only thing that you can share. This life. You don't have any. You can't share anything else, because you don't have anything else. So you have the illusion that you have things, or you own this or you own that. But when you die, who own it? Can it die before you? Or can somebody else own it in your own lifetime? Yes, it can pass through you. You can lose it. So how can you lose something that you own? And the only way you can own your life is through God. You can only own your life through knowing that you are. See what I'm saying? So when you become that, when you become the God that you are, and believe it or not, God is not the highest that you can become, because even that you will have to transcend at some point. But that's the beginning of your humanity, is your divinity. So once you realize that your humanity is your divinity, and once you claim that, the claiming it is the moment of truth, when you say, this is it. So I don't have to go outside of self. I have to live in self, and I have to then become the God that I want to be, or the God that I want in this life. And so here's what they say. They say, well, God help those that help themselves, and the fullness is in that. So there we go again. I'm always throwing it back on the internal. If God help those that help themselves, and outside of you helping yourself, then you're not getting any help from God, then you are God.
There is no separation.
There's no
One
separation.
of the biggest illusions is that there is a separation.
There's a separation. And here is the point of all of this dialogue, is that we need to return to self. We need to become more intimate with our own divine nature and activate our internal intimacy with self. And reconnect to Mother Divine, to Mother Earth, to be able to experience the fullness of intimacy amongst each other, with each other. And so until we do that, a lot of our sexual experiences will be transient, and they'll be like, it's almost like you don't need to put the wear and tear on your body to learn, really. You can learn even from observation or even from make a new mistake every day. Don't make the same one over and over. You have the right to make a new mistake every day. You don't have to make the same one over and over. So when it's a reoccurring decimal like that for you, it means that, you're doing the same things over and over and wanting different results. So yeah, when you give the authority to someone else to define you, then you will live in the shadow of who you really ought to be. You'll never be that substance.
You'll always be ping-ponging around.
You'll be always in the periphery, of your true self. You'll never live in the limelight of your own divine nature and claim that, because you only have this one life, really and truly. We're just here to really love up each other and just love up this life and just keep loving until we leave. And what that means is, on every level, if we love Mother Earth, we love Mother Nature, there's no way we can harm each other and, harm the animals and the planet the kind of way. But we never start out with that love, so we've lost our way now. We have destroyed a lot. We have been very destructive along the way. And now the Earth is going to have to heal herself from all of this. She'll have to purge herself, and when she's purging, and she's doing that right now, she don't have any love or she don't have any mercy, because she doesn't have any particular preference for us
or attachment
to us. Nothing. She doesn't have that relationship.
She doesn't need us.
She doesn't have any need for us. Yeah. So, but we need each other. And
and we need to be connected to ourselves.
Yes.
In a beautiful and powerful way, and really and truly remembering our divinity, the fact that we all exist in the yin and yang, the masculine and feminine, the duality of all things that exists within us. And so really coming into a knowing about intimacy and what is our own individual definition of intimacy, and developing more intimacy with ourselves so that we can explore new levels of intimacy with each other.
Yes, that's the gist of it. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for this opportunity to have this conversation with you, Abba Yahudah.
Likewise, beloved. Likewise, yeah.
And there's so much more to say, so you will probably hear this beautiful voice and this beautiful energy on Ignite Intimacy another time. Abba Yahudah, is there anything that you would like to share as far as ways people can find you online, or projects that you have that you'd like to share with the community?
Oh yeah, there's so much, it can be overwhelming. So if you want to tap into my world, you can go to abbayahudah.com, which is ABBAYAHUDAH.com, and you'll see my fine art. Or you can Google my name and more things will come up. My book, A Journey to the Roots of Rastafari, the Essene Nazarite link, was published 2014 and it's available online at Amazon.com and Trafford Publishing. So you can have that. Also have a body care company, Inesscents Aromatic Botanicals, which is B certified, B Corp, ITIL certified, or organic certified fair trade company, 16 years old. And you can find that in Whole Foods nationwide and all of the health food stores that carry, earth conscious products. And that's Inesscents, INESSCENTS.com.
And we'll include all of those links in the show notes, and so everyone can gain access to that. And Abba Yahudah is a Renaissance man. He is a multi-talented, creative king man doing many, many powerful things in this world. And I look forward to having you again. Give thanks for your time and your energy and your wisdom.
Thank you for having this platform once again, for having us, and for going deep and sharing and allowing others to share. So thank you for what you do.
Yes. Yeah. Well, give thanks for tuning in. This is Miss La Abba Yahudah, Ignite Intimacy Podcast, igniteintimacy.com. And we'll see you on the next one. All right. Bless up. Give thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out online at igniteintimacy.com and subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, tell your friends all about it. This beautiful music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Miss La. Give thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.